Do you know that framing in Japanese animation is actually really fascinating? Especially when the director truly makes a scene align with the perspective of the story being told. In this video, I'm going to break down the details of framing using positioning and deep staging in character placement composition.
こんなの着たくないにゃ、ママ。
There's a reason why this is so important, whether you're making animation or even just taking pictures with your phone. Because in this scene, you'll see how a character's emotions are brought out through framing. Like when this girl feels pressured and trapped, forced to wear something she's not comfortable in just to meet an important guest. And some of you have probably felt that way too. Just when her mother says she should act more like her older brother and sister, polite and reflecting the family's status, she chooses instead to step out of the framing of her mother's words, moving past a boundary within the frame that the director had naturally set up since the beginning of the story. While the next scene shows a flock of flamingos living freely in the wild in her backyard, but you're then brought back into the cage, where the girl watches through a window as flamingos fly freely outside. However, this kind of framing has long been used by directors in the past to express characters' feelings within the frame through art visuals. Of course, without any single dialogue appear in the scene. And you can try using this technique in your own content when you want to reveal a situation. There's something interesting in the next scene too, especially when the girl suddenly enters the DIY club room from the rooftop. This kind of frame within a frame is also a classic, as it's often used to narrow the exploration area within the frame, so the audience stays focused on the character who is portrayed in a mysterious way. But the most intriguing part comes after she's inside the room. The use of background and foreground not only adds aesthetic value, but it also guides the audience's subconscious, while making the character placement more dynamic and less monotonous. So, the use of background and foreground to visualize what's happening in the story is really compelling. For example, blocking or positioning like this in deep staging can be incredibly engaging. Just like placing a natural divider in the foreground of the frame can subtly separate a new character from the existing ones, to emphasizing their difference or distance. Even without any dialogue explaining the character's feelings, narrowing the exploration area like this becomes a form of visual dialogue, as it's showing Takumin's shyness when Kokoro praises her aggressively. So, objectively, Kokoro is simply complimenting Takumin and her work. But subjectively, Takumin's shyness comes through in response to that praise. This kind of blocking technique is what makes a scene reveal multiple variables depending on the perspective from which you see it. In the next scene, you can realize that there is no limit to how the director positions the characters in each different frame, but still within a reasonable range. Just like in this scene, when the story is trying to tell the contradiction of the club president who can't believe that all the members are casually acquainted with Kokoro, who turns out to be a student from another school. You can see here that Sarufu moves from her original position to a new position so that she can get into the range of the camera frame. In real-life filming, when the actress takes the initiative to get into the frame, this is what makes the scene unnecessary to take repeatedly. Although it seems like a normal anime without crazy battle graphics, but as content creator, the visual storytelling conveyed in every scene in this anime is very interesting for you to understand. Especially in this scene, when Jobko is praised by Kokoro about her geniuses. The way the director of this anime uses a pure white vignette, by eliminating almost all objects in the background. This scene clearly visualizes Jobko's feelings of blushing, but at the same time opening her feelings wide to accept Kokoro as her friend. But if you look at this scene, just like in our previous video explaining the third-person perspective in video games, a similar visual composition is shown in this scene when the club president challenges Kokoro to an arm wrestling duel. As the story progresses, only the club president contradicts herself, while the other members accept Kokoro into the club. This is an example of visual storytelling that clearly illustrates the situation in the story without necessarily having conversations that tell you who is defending whom. But the blocking of the characters in the frame can hint at it perfectly. If you watch this episode, there are many other compositions that are more complex in the context of visual storytelling. And this kind of visual art sometimes feels ordinary, but Surprisingly, if understanding it is very influential for your visual storytelling skill. Just like when teacher Haruko reunites with Koto, they are positioned in parallel close together as if they are connected to each other.
春子先生としーちゃん、どういう関係なんですか？
So, the visual composition had already answered what Sarufo asked even before the flashback scene appeared. So, changing the position of the camera to show them close to each other successfully harmonizes the content of the story about how close the two of them are. This is a form of visual storytelling that taps into your sense while making you feel all warm and cozy as you enjoy this anime. The visual storytelling that you see in the animation is very influential to the story that takes place, such as the deep staging used when Kokoro is accepted by the club president. This scene provides an observation perspective through over the shoulder, and also gives a strong feeling that Kokoro's joining the club is highly praised by all members.
しーちゃん、これからよろしくね。よろしくお願いします。
It may seem easy or even that you can rely on your instincts when creating scenes in animation, but when we are full of enthusiasm and happiness, we often forget the deeper emotional essence of a melancholic story scene. That's why some of these theories and technicalities in visual storytelling often help you come up with new ideas. Like the brilliant use of camera angles shown in this scene, where the story is that they are looking for scrap wood to make a treehouse. You could say that this is a framing technique that confines them all, being in a slightly confused state when they find the wood. This amplifies your feelings to ask, are they allowed to take the wood for free?
もう使ってないみたいだから、もらえちゃったりするんじゃないかにゃ。
なるほど。
But what's interesting is when the club president comes out with a slightly limp face to create a reverse effect that makes you think they can't take the wood. But it's the club president's confusion about how to bring all the wood to the school.
好きなだけ持って行っていいって。
Okay, this is Tirano dance.